Hello, I'm Carl Seidel, host of The People's View. The People's View is a show sponsored by the Nashua Republican City Committee. The committee meets every second Thursday at the Crown Plaza. And if you want to contact us, we have a website, nashuagop.org. And at the end of the show, you'll see some contact phone numbers or email addresses that you may want to send us your comments and recommendations. Thank you for listening in.
Welcome to The People's View, a program dedicated to discussing local, state, and national issues and their effect on the American people. The People's View provides a platform for state representatives and national figures to present their viewpoint. Whether it's social, economic, or financial topics, you'll hear it on The People's View.
Hello and welcome. And I'd like to welcome our guest, Representative Laurie Sanborn.
Great to be here, Carl.
And you're the policy leader for the Republican Party?
For the Republican side, yes. So I'm the Republican policy leader, so I'm the third ranking member of the New Hampshire House.
Very good.
Unfortunately on the losing side this year, but
well, you've been pretty active up there.
Yep.
I mean, it's been quite a nice session, and along with the Senate, we've been able to get some things done that we would like to see done. But maybe we want to touch on first on some other aspect of your responsibility, and that's in recruiting new candidates and getting everybody set and trained to make a good run at their election next year.
That's right. So right now, as you may know, we're wrapping up things at the State House. June 4th will probably be last session day of the year, where we finalize a lot of the Committee of Conference reports is what it's called. So you'll have things finalized by the House, things finalized by the Senate. We come together and try to work out the little differences and try to get some things passed. And that will all happen on June 4th, we hope. There may be a few stragglers after that. But then, of course, on June 4th, it's the first day of filing. So if you're interested in running for state Senate, for state rep, for a lot of other positions, then you have to sign up starting on June 4th. I think it ends on June 13th. So, of course, we've got to think about that as well, because the election is right upon us. And if you can't win an election if you don't have a candidate for that seat. And, you know, we have a lot of normal, natural turnover that happens in the House. As you know, it's a volunteer position. So every 2 years, we have 20, maybe 30% of the people move along and do something else, and so we've got new people coming in, and then we have some seats we'd like to take back as Republicans,
especially in this city,
and especially in Nashua. We have a
number
of wards here that have always been Republican wards, and some we kept, and some we might have lost. So now's a good time to start fielding some candidates for that, because you can't win if you don't have candidates.
So if anybody in our audience wants to find out, they should contact you. And
please do.
Your information will be at the end of the interview.
Good, that's great. Yes, I'm always open to talk to candidates, whether you're ready to do it now or you're thinking about it sometime in the future, or you just want to help candidates get elected. There's a lot of ways you can participate, but you know what, it is important. This, as you know, this is one of the most rewarding jobs. I call it jobs. It's a volunteer job. It is a job. You know, it is one of the most rewarding things we can do. I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and you know, you can't do it forever, but when you can, and you really feel like you can make a difference and solve problems for people, it really is very rewarding. Personally.
There are a lot of problems up there, aren't there?
There are. Well, you know, the funny thing is, though, every year we have about 1,000 bills.
Yes.
That's the average, both House and Senate, and I don't think we have 1,000 problems every single year. That might be too much. But we do have real problems, and we do need to fix them for folks, and sometimes it's a legislative solution, and that's what we're there to do.
Well, the biggest one, I think, is that hole in the budget that we may have of $400 million for 2 years.
Yeah, it won't be quite that much. No. Net, it'll probably be, it's closer to $300 million, but we don't know for sure. It really, there's a court case, as you know, on Medicaid enhancement tax. We don't know if the state's position will hold, which is what we've been doing is completely constitutional and legal, or if the other party will prevail. And so we're working on that as we speak, and to try to figure out a solution, because obviously we want to keep in mind the state revenues, but we also want to make sure our hospitals and our healthcare providers
taken care
operating
of, sure. Yeah.
healthfully. Yes.
Well, what does a person have to do who wants to run if they've never really looked into it before?
Yeah, good question. You know, to run for the New Hampshire House, you have to be 18 years of age. You have to have lived in New Hampshire for 2 years, and then you have to reside in the city that you want to represent. So you have to be able to prove, of course, that you have a a phone bill or a tax bill or something like that that shows that you live in that town or in that ward. And then you have to sign up. You have to be registered for a party. So if you're going to represent the Republican Party, you'd have to be a registered Republican. And then you just have to sign up. And then the sign-up process is actually quite simple. You go to the town clerk's office, and for state rep, it's a $2 fee. Or there's a way you can avoid the fee if you get enough signatures.
It's only 5, isn't it, or something?
I think it's only 5. 5 or 10. Now I can't remember.
Okay.
And either way, so it's fairly
very
painless.
easy, yeah.
It's very easy to do. But you know, if you're not sure if you're registered to vote in your town as a Republican, you want to check that out soon, because you wouldn't want to wait to the last minute and then discover that, oops, I forgot to change. I used to live in a different ward, and you have to fix that.
You have to change before you can sign up
Yes,
for it.
it has to be before.
And that registration period has to be before June 4th, doesn't it?
Yes, usually.
You have to change your registration before the 4th of June.
Yes, yes.
So any independents, undeclared as they're called here, have to have that change.
Yes, I believe so. I don't know the exact how many days in advance, but yes, so you want to shore up those details right away. And we hope people will consider running, because it really is a wonderful experience. You learn so much about policy and process and how you can really help people.
And the Republican Party is really organized to help these people, some people who have just a faint idea what they have to do up there, by some training programs
Absolutely.
that you have.
Yeah, we've had some trainings already. We also did a big open house for Republican candidates, which was really fun. We had 100 Republicans show up, very eager to run. And then we're also doing more trainings coming up. So we've got a training coming up on June 7th.
Okay.
And we try to move these around the state so that they're not always in Concord. And the next one on June 7th is in Exeter. So we're looking forward to that. And we'll cover things, you know, what is the job of representative? How much money do I need to raise? And how would I do that, if any? I mean, some people don't have to raise any money at all to run for House Rep.
That's right.
And then, you know, a little bit more about, you know, how do I get out and talk to people? How do I put together maybe a sign or palm cards or get-togethers with voters? You know, kind of walking people through that process. Every district is unique, so you have to use your own best decision. But most people, you know, can sit down and really make a plan after these training programs that will work to them. Kind of starting with the primary date and working backwards. Okay, I know I need X number of votes by September 9th.
Right.
How do I get there? And then the party and the House Republican office is happy to help answer any questions we can and get people there.
There's also some paperwork that you explain what they have to do if they have to keep track of financial records and stuff like that.
Right. And again, it's not overly complicated. It's actually very user-friendly to do, so it's doable.
And we also help them with the voter records, so they know who's voting in their area. People who are registered.
Right. The New Hampshire GOP, the Republican office, has all that data, and they can provide that kind of assistance to candidates. Yes.
And how you can explain to people who haven't registered that you might come across people that have just moved into the district or something like that, how they have to go about registration.
Right.
It's fairly easy here in Nashua, because we have a town clerk that has even the evening hours to register.
Oh, that's nice.
Sometimes.
Not every town has that.
No.
Yeah.
But I think it's really helpful, and I do try to make the election whole process very straightforward.
It really is, and you know, with 400 representatives, this is really, we're doing the people's work, so we want to be accessible to folks, we want to make it an easy process so that people can, you know, people don't have to spend a lot of money, they can get out there and just meet with their folks and win.
Well, tell us a little bit about the Victory Office they're going to open here in Nashua.
Yes, I don't know as much about that as I'd like to, but yeah, it's about to open soon. There'll be Victory offices,
June 4th.
Several places, I think, in the state, and that's again looking for the full Republican ticket victory in the 2014 election, which is really exciting. So in addition to the state rep candidates, we have state senators who are running. We also have a governor.
Right.
Every 2 years, the governor's seat
and
is
this
up
is our
for
turn,
re-election.
isn't it?
And well, it could be. You know, it will be. it'll be a tough election because it is difficult to unseat a first-term governor. But we do have 2 Republican candidates, which hopefully you'll have on the show at some point, and we'll see. Maybe one of them can win this.
Yeah, yeah.
So they're both phenomenal. So
well,
we hope so.
Speaking of that, Wolf Harvesting's will be at the Nashua City Republican meeting on June 12th.
Wonderful.
At the Crown Plaza. And we'll have him as a major speaker, and we'll have him on our show, too.
That's great.
So,
well, he used to work in Nashua. I believe he ran
at
BAE Systems, right?
So, and we've already had his opponent,
Andrew Hemingway,
on this show, and people can always look at that and go back. All our candidates I've been able to interview who are running for these offices. So
Great.
There are past people view shows that will have an introduction to them anyway, and know why they're running, and we'll be doing that with all the representatives too. We'll be able to fit them on the show so that people.
And that's a lot in Nashua.
That is. There's 27.
Is it that many? Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have a lot of candidates to talk to, but there's a lot of things that we can all talk about. I think there's a general feeling that Republicans have a little bit of momentum going into this election. It's an off-presidential year, so that means turnout's going to be a little bit different, so it's going to be the folks that are paying attention. And, a lot of people are concerned about Obamacare. It's here. It's starting to affect us. It hasn't made things more affordable. For a lot of people, their health insurance is a lot more expensive. Some folks have lost their doctors and other providers, and so it hasn't turned out to be what others had hoped, and so I think people are concerned, and I've been able to talk to folks when I've been recruiting, what is it that's making them motivated to run, and that's part of it. Part of it is the economy isn't where we really need it to be.
I was going to say that's the other major part of it, and are you still head of the business group?
Yes,
there?
We have the nonpartisan House Business Caucus.
The nonpartisan, which is some. They speak that we play games up there, but this is a group that we think is very important for the economy of New Hampshire.
Absolutely.
And you've headed a nonpartisan group that I served on when I was up there.
Yes.
And it was a very good thing that you were doing up there.
Well, yeah, we can come together on a lot of these issues, and there's things that we can fix. I mean, I think people are tired of the over-regulation, that red tape.
Definitely.
The fees and the fines and all this kind of stuff that just bogs businesses down. Businesses want to do things properly. They want to treat people well. They just want to try to run their businesses. And if we, New Hampshire's made of small businesses, a lot of family-owned businesses, and you just keep piling on this red tape to them, and they just kind of, you just can't.
They get
focus.
overwhelmed.
They get overwhelmed with it, right?
I mean, they just throw up their hands and sometimes go out of business.
Right. And we've seen a bunch of legislation this year that's added some red tape, made it harder for them to make good decisions, and that's a challenge. So we've been pushing back on some of that, and in some cases we've been successful, in other cases we haven't. But it is important that we fix those types of problems for these small business owners so that they can do what they do best, which is selling products, selling services, and serving their customers.
Well, I think we accomplished something a couple of years ago where we got the agencies to get more familiar with the small businesses' problems, and they've responded to them. I hope that continued. I haven't seen any problems that haven't been approached, on a fairly reasonable basis.
Well, dialogue is the most important thing.
That's right.
And, a lot of what we do at the State House, even when we sponsor a bill, which may or may not get passed, is to shine a light on the issue. Because sometimes I think maybe there's just a disconnect between the state agencies and with the employers. And if we can get them kind of talking about what the problem, and whenever possible, one of the things that we passed was warnings before fines. Because a lot of small businesses just don't know the law, and they don't know where to go to find the law. And so, sometimes it's just a small minor paperwork error that can be fixed. The employer wants to fix it, let's give them a chance to fix it.
That's right.
And then do it right.
Don't hit them on it with a hammer.
Exactly. This does not fine them because they need that money to survive, to grow. And, I talked to a small business owner. They gave me this example. When that happened to them, they made a mistake. This was before we did the warnings before fines. And they got hit with a pretty big fine. And they had to cut their graphic designer and their website person. So just think about the rippling effect
That's
of
right.
that on the economy. So now it didn't just affect that company, it affected a few other small businesses. So, you know, that's not what we want. I think we all want to make sure our small businesses do well, especially if they're responsible and they're trying to do the right thing. Let's help them do the right thing.
That's right, yeah. And I think we're starting to do that, and we have to do more.
Yes.
Well, we have to also encourage other companies to come into New Hampshire.
Right,
too.
and that's another topic that we're having, you know, because obviously we're a little bit concerned. We have a little bit of a brain drain, and we have young people leaving our state because they're just not finding enough jobs. And if we can have more startup companies here, some more excitement happening in the job market, we can keep those youth after they graduate college, or we can have them come back and start their families here. Because, you know, New Hampshire is now one of the third oldest, believe it or not. Our population was the third oldest in the country, and not that there's anything wrong with that, but you also need to have an influx of newer folks coming in. And the way to do that is primarily with jobs. So, yeah.
Well, speaking about that population, you think you might be able to recruit some of those people to come and run for election?
Well, some, yes. I have, you know, when we recruit, we recruit regardless of age, obviously, regardless of gender, regardless of anything. We're just trying to recruit folks that, A, can do the position. You know, they have to be able to commit to the time, and who care deeply about serving and are willing to do that. So, yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the time requirement.
Good question. That is the number one question we get. And that is, it varies a little bit, but basically this is part-time legislature, so it's from January until early June, and usually we're done by mid-June. And then it's 2 to 3 days a week on average. So it's very important that you can commit to be there on the big voting days, which are usually Wednesdays, because really that's what the people in your town elected you to do, is to vote on their behalf, hopefully. And those are usually Wednesdays. And then you also have a policy committee assignment. And every representative is assigned one committee. And you have a little bit of input on what that committee is, but honestly, you may or may not get that committee depending on what's available. And no matter what committee you get assigned to, I think everyone really falls in love with it because you end up being a policy expert. So even if you knew nothing about transportation or public works, you get on that committee and you learn and you ask the questions and you hear from people from all over the state on what they think about it, pro and con. And you become the expert in a very quick amount of time, more than you ever thought you'd ever know on that topic.
That's true.
So it is, and so you're in the policy committees, usually Tuesday and or Thursdays, and then they're on Wednesdays for the big voting days. So that's what you're looking at, again, from January until June.
There are some committees that might require a few more days, but those are usually for people who have been experienced and been there.
Yeah, or if you're just interested. You know, when I got elected, I decided, well, I can't do this forever, so I want to do the most I can do while I'm there. So I volunteered myself for Ways and Means.
Which is one of the
Which is one of those committees that meets a lot. And, but I did that on purpose because I really feel strongly about making sure our taxes are low and we have competitive business tax policies that will attract businesses to our state and keep them here. And so I felt very strongly about that. And so, but it is a 5-day-a-week, some weeks, not every week. And finance is another committee.
Those are the two biggies.
Those are the biggies. So you can voluntarily, if you have the interest, you have the time, you think you have something to contribute.
Well, let's talk about that. You're a small business owner.
Yes.
So you are able to fit the time in because you're flexible. There are a lot of people there who might be lawyers or real estate agents or something who have a somewhat flexible work schedule. And there's a lot of retired people that are there, and this is a second.
Yes.
Which is my case.
Well, you know, retired people of all ages. So when you
That's
said
right.
retired, I thought to myself, you know, because I'm thinking through the candidates that we've recruited, and we have retired military. Some of these folks
That's
are
right.
not that
They're
old,
in their 40s or
but
50s.
they're now kind of doing their second big career,
Right.
and they've decided that this is something that they want to do. So that's wonderful. We have retired teachers. Not all of them are that
That's
old.
true.
We recruited a physician who is.
There are a number of physicians.
There are a
up
number
there.
of physicians, now that I think about it, that are concerned
Yeah.
and are concerned enough that they're going to move around their schedule
Right.
and make this work because they want to have some input, and we need that.
Yeah, yeah.
So-
And some other son
we have
combination
some
that
of
was
those.
that. And
But I've
it's
talked to
interesting.
some young folks, and 18-year-old, 19-year-olds, 21-year-olds. So we have all different age categories, really people from all different types of background. you don't have to have a college degree.
No.
You don't actually have to have work experience.
Yeah.
Really, again, let the voters will decide. If they feel like you're a qualified candidate, you'll get elected and then join us.
Mm-hmm.
This, again, we're trying to represent all of the people in New Hampshire, so we need a wide spectrum of candidates.
Yeah, and there's a few very young people who just got out of college. Oh, one I remember when I was first elected, wasn't even out of college yet. He ran while he was going to college, and he was able to change his course schedule around to accommodate that.
And some of those reps have just been really terrific. They've kept up with all of their responsibilities and kept up with school and jobs and all this stuff. And really, it's impressive. We have really impressive people at the New Hampshire House.
So there's a lot of people out there that should be considering something like this.
Absolutely.
What else can you tell us about the job up there as far as compensation is concerned? We only get $100 a year.
Yes, it's $100 a year, so it's really not much compensation.
Right.
And you do have to pay taxes on that.
Right.
And if you'd like a numbered license plate, the one with your seat number on it,
Yeah.
then you have to pay for that too. So there's no freebies.
No, you pay for your business cards.
Right.
The only other thing you get is mileage.
You do get mileage, which is helpful because if you're driving back and forth, it can add up. So you do get some mileage if you're doing the journey, and you just submit your forms on that, and they reimburse you. I think it's every other week, and that does help defray the costs.
And the other thing you get is an Easy Pass.
You get an Easy Pass, which has no monetary value.
Right.
It just lets you drive through.
Right.
So it does help, because that would add up pretty good.
Yeah, it would, especially for me going up
Yes.
there, going through two toll booths.
Yeah, because we don't want it to cost people money
Right.
to do this. So ideally you can do it without losing money on the deal, but that you feel like you can make a difference.
But it is a very friendly, atmosphere up there.
It absolutely is, and I know a lot of people. Obviously you run from a party perspective and you run based on a platform. But when you get up there and you're in a policy committee, it tends not to be quite as partisan, and it's very much a working group. So you're sitting beside Democrats and with people from all over the state with all different types of background, and you're really trying to look at the bill on its merits. And a lot of it is not partisan. A lot of it is truly trying to figure out what is the problem we're trying to solve? Does this legislation do that? Or if not, could we fix it so that it does? What will it cost? Who will pay for it? Right? So these are the types of questions. How will we implement it? Those are the types of questions.
One of the places you get stuck sometime is what are the unintended consequences?
Yes.
Those can get to be a little sticky.
Right. And you never know that until
right.
you can read a bill and you can think, wow, that sounds like a great idea.
Or you can hear somebody who says, oh, well, you're considering this?
Right.
And no, I never considered that.
And you'll have people show up at the public hearing and you just never, ever thought of that perspective. Because it hadn't occurred to you. But that's why we do the public hearing. And, New Hampshire is really special. I've had the opportunity to meet with leaders in other states, and I think New Hampshire is one of the only states where every single piece of legislation gets a full public hearing and a full public vote. And that's amazing. Other states, the speaker or the Senate president could take that bill and just put it in a little drawer and it never sees the light of day. But that's not the way it works in New Hampshire. Every single bill gets a public hearing. We post it in a printed calendar and then we put it online, as you know, so that people can follow it. And if there's a topic that is of interest to you, please come up and testify.
And it's not just a pass or fail. There are other destinations for some of these bills.
There are other destinations. Many of them are truly to study.
Yeah,
as you know,
right.
we sometimes we'll spend the 6 months or so between the House and the Senate really looking at a bill and trying to understand it and see if we can make it work. And sometimes we can do that in the 6 months, and sometimes we need more time. So many times, in fact, I'd have to look at what the percentage is. I'd say maybe as many as 10% of our bills turn into study committees so that there'll be further research on that topic, because we just couldn't get it done.
Yeah, you'd have to look at the detail again of the legislation, make sure maybe an amendment can fix it, or maybe it has to be completely scrapped and start again from scratch.
Right.
Looking at what your objective is and trying to formulate it so you don't have these unintended consequences.
That's right.
So It's a lot of fun up there in a way.
It is. Are you going to come back?
Ask the voters.
Let the voters decide, right?
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
see. We're going to have some good candidates here in Nashua, and people have an opportunity to see them on TV. So they'll get, and obviously we'll have meetings to show them off more or less.
Right. Sometimes it is hard to get out there in front of the voters. You know, most people have very busy lives. They're focusing on their jobs and their family and all that other stuff, and so it's hard to impose on people and share your thoughts. But yeah, so that's why this program is wonderful, so that they can access it when it's convenient for them, and they can get a glimpse at the candidates.
So you're going to be putting these on your website. It'll be on the nhgop.org
Right. The best
website.
place to go is nhgop.org, and there's a listing of the training programs that are being offered for both candidates and for people who want to help the candidates win. There's opportunities to look at events that are happening, and at those events, those are great opportunities to meet candidates and to reconnect with other people on the best way to win.
That's good.
Yeah.
And in Nashua GOP.org's website, we will also have that information.
Wonderful.
And it'll have a lot of information about the victory office that will be here in Nashua.
Good.
So there'll be things there. There'll be other events that will be held locally that might be of interest to some of the voters.
Excellent.
So they can go there.
And then a lot of times, some of the top of the ticket candidates especially, but even for House reps, will sometimes drop off their signs at the local office.
That's true.
And that's a great opportunity. New Hampshire really loves our signs. We always put a bunch of those up there because it's a way to advertise without being in people's face all the time. So they see the name and they realize, oh, it's on my neighbor's lawn. They must think that's a good person. And it really works. So that's the other thing you can do, is just to get involved by picking up a sign and putting it in your front yard.
A lot of people want to get into just to find out how this whole thing works, and going to the victory office or contacting one of the Republican committees that are in the state is a way to at least get informed about it and what happens.
Absolutely,
You
and
know?
of course I'm always welcome. Hopefully my information will be on the screen later. If someone wants to come up to the State House, get a tour, learn more about the job. Obviously we won't be actively in session, in the next after the next couple weeks, but if you still want to come up and kind of get a visual sense of what does this committee room look like? Where would I be working? Where
I did
is that voting?
It's very informative. You
Yes.
feel comfortable up
Exactly,
there.
and we want people to feel confident, and we're going to help folks. If you get elected, once you're there's going to be orientations and training so that you feel comfortable. Somewhat what are the rules of the road? How do we operate there? Because it's a little different from anything else you might have ever done. If you've had some experience maybe in town politics, that will help. But if you don't, no problem. We're going to show you the ropes. There's some certain procedures about how we can ask questions and the type of process that we use, but it's very learnable, and usually you learn very quickly, and we're there to help along the way.
Well, we covered a lot today. I
We
think
sure
you've. But any other questions? I guess they can call us, either one of us.
Absolutely,
to
and
find out.
I can come back again if you find out there's a lot more information that people need. We can cover all of that again.
Okay. Well,
Great.
thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Okay. And thank you for listening in. Come to our city committee on June 12th to see Wolf Haberstein, our candidate for governor, give a talk. Okay? Thank you very much for tuning in.